Hey, what's up guys, it's Oakley, and we're back in Warhammer 2 playing a 3 versus 3 here. I'm going to be forces of Midland out here in the jungles of Leicester. I did want to do a little bit of role-playing. I wanted to presume or make believe that I was like a privately financed expedition with a couple expensive units, but all in all, kind of ragtag, low-tier infantry that were pulled along for an expedition seeking riches and plunder. So my force is going to have a lot of low-tier units, not too much tech to it. And a pair of muskets here, or we should say handgunners. So two of them guarding the central piece of my, I guess, ragtag army. So yeah, this is the one that's going to be sitting back. A little bit of elites in this form of one great sword, two halberdiers defending him, and then two spearmen behind that. So that's the one that's our central base. This is where we would pitch our tents, have our mortar set up, and just hold out and bunker up. The main kind of attacking arm of my expedition is going to be over here. Boris Todbringer, who has financed the expedition, did bring along some Knights of the Blazing Sun to back him up, so he is eager for some glory in these new lands here. And with the temples in the background, it seems like we've found a good place to perhaps plunder. Although along the way we have run into a big evil horde and we've had to find some allies. So the allies on my side are going to be the dwarves and the lizardmen. So looks like we may have even perhaps lent our arms to the defenders here as mercenaries, getting our riches that way. But in terms of what do I have up front in my main attacking arm, it's pretty weak. It's two spearmen with shields, three swordsmen, and then three crossbowmen. With a Jade Wizard here, he has Lore of Life to be able to heal up this unit. So this is supposed to be a pretty squishy blob. Not really intending it to do too much, but there is a lot of men here. So I expect them to be kind of blobby, hold the enemy back, allow my mortar to do damage, and just kind of be a big reconnaissance in force. I also have brought along one of these Free Company militias just because I thought it fit a bit of the theme I had here of this this group of explorers coming through the forest. So they do look very cool. Not very good in multiplayer though. So that's about my force. Backing me up, we have a very elite dwarven force holding strong with hammers in the rear, in the center, iron breakers, Norgrimling iron breakers. Yeah, tons of stuff. We even have a rune lord to buff them up even more. He has, oh my god, is that three? Yeah, and two runesmiths. So he's going to be having buff for days, lots of sustain on these guys. So that's definitely elite core. And then meanwhile, our last allied lizardman here has sword spears intermixed with some temple guards. Looks like, well, actually just one temple guard, the rest are all spears, and those are going to be defending two stegodons. You don't see two of those rolling along in one battle. Very powerful forces and shoved up in this case, so very tanky allies in this case compared to my squishy force. It's going to be interesting. And then he has Mazda Mundi in the back mounted up with his little buggy, and I love how they included these little antennas, or yeah, two of them that kind of jostle about like that. So anyway, who are we facing off against? It's going to be a contingent of basically evil forces with the, I guess, the wood elves pairing up in a battle of convenience, I guess, for them. On their right flank facing me is going to be an army of chaos, lots of heavy infantry, chaos warriors shoved up there. Back that up with one chaos knight, a sorcerer with the Lord of Fire, and then a chosen with halberd. So a pretty small chaos force. But pretty good infantry. The main bulk of his money has been put into two hull cannons placed in the center to support the beastmen. In the center is going to be a wall of eternal guards with some glade guard with starfire shaft in the center, and then some war dancers in the back. And they have Azrai spears. Yeah, so all these guys anti-large. They're going to be good for taking out monsters, presuming that they wanted to use that against the lizardmen. The lizardmen only have a couple of them. So if they can defend them with their infantry, especially with the dwarves, they should be okay. I'm a little bit worried about the beastmen here. They have a lot of these really cheap Ungor spearmen herds. Not quite sure what he was expecting to do with all these spears. Perhaps to counter some dinosaurs, but against even standard Fairsaurus warriors, these guys are going to get chewed up. Luckily, he does have a bit of a core here of Minotaurs, so two of those, a Gorbel, and then he has a Beast Lord on a chariot, plus a Bray Shaman, the Lore of Wild, also on a chariot as well. And then he has more forces, Vanguard in the back, still hidden to us, but a pretty sizable contingent that we have to be a little bit worried about. But it is just Ungor herd, so if we do spot this, we could pivot her out and really smush that with our guys. But anyways, our allies are going to sit back because we have, I guess, more of a defensive blobby force. The only exception to that is going to be my expeditionary army here that we've already pointed out. This looks pretty cool with them wading forward in the jungles. and my mortar crew is going to turn about to pivot to form, calibrate to target this island in the center. And here comes the hell cannon fire starting to come in, screaming through the debris. So at this point in time, we haven't seen any of our opponents, and my guys here are perhaps rethinking this expedition if it's worth it. They look in the jungles and all they see is a screaming bolt of souls coming at them. At least a couple of them are getting blocked, so luckily line of sight is on our side. But that's not going to hold for long because there's a lot more units coming in. And this is exactly where our mortar crew can actually fire with greater line of fire. Here it gets hit by a couple trees, but it's going to be able to lob over and hit some more. But this is a big contingent of wood elves, so I'm a little bit worried here. So while that's plotting forward, all of a sudden Chaos moves up into the woods, and didn't quite expect to see my big army here, so we've positioned ourselves, taunting the enemy while we're high in numbers with the Jade Wizard here to reinforce as well. Gonna be keeping us in good morale, but I realize, oh my god, this is an entire Chaos army of Chaos Warriors and Chosen. There's no way I can hold out against this. So I get a couple early shots with my crossbowmen, try and focus fire with various units. He's gonna get some flame shots into my guys, and that's enough to beat back a retreat. In the cover of the woods, these guys will be able to see me off. My spearmen are gonna be able to dissuade them, but the rest of my forces here are gonna try and draw back. We're already beating a hasty retreat. Try and see them off, but the rest of this is posturing at the moment. I've pulled back with my crossbowmen, not expecting to get too much damage, but here comes the big charge up through this side of the Chaos Warriors. So they're going to clear the center. Meanwhile, or they're going to clear the right flank. Meanwhile, on the right, the Wood Elves have pulled forward in this position, and they're going to continue or press the assault on my front line here. Handgunners are going to start to unload on some of the Eternal Guard, but this is only, a third of my force. The main attacking force is off over there in the forest. So I'm going to start to take the combined assault of two full armies here. I still have my gunners shooting up in the center. This branch wraith is going to try and reinforce them, but they're going to hold out here. Here you get a couple strikes, charging in with my spearmen, not anticipating them to do too much, but I get another volley, and the great swords are going to come in through. That should be enough to hold them, but we'll see how this goes. Let's put this on slow motion to see what's been happening. So they've been shredding my ranged units. Mortar is still firing. I did send Boris Todbringer and some knights in here to try and pick up some of his archers. Got a little bit of them, but I'm getting eaten alive by the Glade Lord and other Chaos forces. But it's enough of a distraction to relieve pressure on my front line. Hopefully by time for me to win. Looks like the Eternal Guard here is going to be destroyed. Ooh, huge pendulum coming in here, and it is going to scythe through these spearmen. Luckily, I believe it's going to miss. Oh no, looks like here it comes. Most of the damage on the spearmen, great swords are going to pick themselves up. Boris comes in to reinforce, but good god, that was a lot of damage. So my main line is not going to be able to hold much longer. Luckily, the mortar crew is still firing to suppress that. Meanwhile, over here, the dwarves have formed up into a defensive position, holding strong with all their elites in the woods. A couple of their units have been issued forth, but the beastmen are overrunning this army in the back. Some of their Ungors were discovered and looks like absolutely trashed by Bastiladons and other units. And now we're getting a big swarm of sword spears and other units, Stegodons in here, and they're going to destroy this beastman force. It doesn't really have the support it would need. They would really love some archers and other units to really suppress some of these big guys, even more spears. But yeah, this getting clobbered by all these units caught out, and the Minotaurs here not going to have a good exchange. Lord of Mazamundi also, Bring the Revivification was really great. It really combos well with these super tanky forces, keeping them topped off, and they can absorb a lot of fire, allowing the henchmen, underlings, whatever you want to call them, these Saurus warriors, to do what they do best and just grind it out while the big monsters are distracted. So that's kind of what's happening here. Big stalwart defense by the dwarves, allying with the lizardmen here, and this is a pretty glorious sight as it plows through with the fire coming in as well. Let's put this on play. So that's pretty glorious. So on this side, victory is going to go to our allies. On my side, I am trying to hold back two armies. My main force that was back here is continuing to retreat. Didn't really have much in the way of defense. I had to sacrifice my spearman forces. Did a fair amount of damage with focus fire on my crossbowman against the sorcerer. This will be useful later on, but he sacrificed himself to slow down 3 forces, so this is a good sacrifice. Perhaps not for the these men here, but for the army, definitely worthwhile. And the rest of my guys are going to be able to beat a hasty retreat just in time while the center crumbles. So here we come. In the center, the distraction of the archers went really well. It bought me a little bit of time to continue to fire with my handgunners, even up the front lines, but here comes the murderous fire coming in, and it looks like we have some wild riders, or are these Sisters of the Thorn? Yeah, it looks like Sisters of the Thorn, which are not the best in melee, but in this type of a clean engagement, they're going to eat me up. We do get a last volley into these guys, and then I'm going to countercharge with some spears. Did pull back with some more handgunners in the back, and they are on the high ground. So here we go, going to be seeing off the dastardly deer. The units over here are still alive, pincushions and all, but still trying to fire, and it's too late for me to pull out of that fight. Meanwhile over here, 2 of my crossbowmen have pulled back to relative security, and I'm going to be able to focus fire on this Glade Lord. Lots of effects coming in here against my guys as I try and disengage. The Knights of the Blazing Sun coming in here to reinforce as well, and Boris Todbringer also coming in to try and dissuade these assault. But all the while, this Chaos Knight unit has been harrying and harassing my guys as they try and pull back. I'm trying to form a line of defense around my last remaining range units. It's doing okay. Gunners are going to be coming back to try and stymie this assault, but there's not much I can do against these concentrated bowmen. Those Chaos Knights are going to be something that I have to keep an eye on. Let's watch this. Here's the charge. I'm going to hold on the dry ground, try and keep the enemy in the wet marshes, and the Knights here moving forward. But now let's see who's coming out of the marsh here. Lots of these highly vetted up Chaos Warriors. And this reminds me of something out of the White Dwarf editions that I used to love reading. All the beautiful artwork that you would see of these Chaos Warriors are really looking very scary, coming out of swamps and marshes, and this is very much what my imagination told me it would be like, with forces of the Empire beating a retreat. So you go, with that, my lines are going to continue to fall back. Chaos Knights did get in. I did try and thwart them with Knights of the Blazing Sun. Spearmen coming back as well to reinforce and see them off. Handgunners, or sorry, Free Company Militia also trying to suppress them. Crossbowmen firing. This is a thorn in my side, so I'm doing everything I can, but they are heavily armored, taking a lot of damage. Here comes another Pendulum. I do micro out of there just in time. And I also have my Jade Wizard, who's been trying to pop some regen on all my guys. But we're getting overwhelmed here. Chaos Warriors are getting a little bit blobbed up, and so the last line of the Empire here is going to form about. Crossbowmen trying to reload as they charge forward, and Boris is the only thing keeping them back. Jade Wizard also going to come in. Yeah, Handgunner is going to try and buy themselves a little bit of distance while a Comet comes in. Really epic stuff, but they are bunching up a bit too much, allowing my Free Company Militia to start to unload on them. That's pretty good, but keep an eye on what's lurking around the back. Some of the Chaos Knights may pivot around, and they do still have more warriors coming across. They are cleaning up some of my guys in the center. Swordsman here, pretty dilapidated now, very shaken, should be killed off, and somehow these spearmen holding out. Very proud of them. So as I've been taking, an army and a half's worth of attention, it's bought us enough time to win rather handily on this side. Lots of dwarves having committed themselves, beating back the beastmen. They're going to go ahead and retreat and hold this rear position while the Hell Cannon continue to fire. They want to focus fire probably on some of the elite dwarven infantry that's been blobbed up. But now all this is going to pivot back on the center, and it's all going to come to a head right where my guys are. Luckily, the dwarves are pushing on through, and they're going to be making a beeline for the elven archers, which is great because that was what was tearing my army apart more than anything, with these runesmiths trying to have more damage resistance, but can't really stop everything. There's a lot of damage coming in. And here comes this column of Chaos Warriors slowly eating through my guys, although Boris Todbringer in the center holding strong, plus more swordsmen and spearmen. Knights of the Blazing Sun as well in there, really trying to defend this. And my spearmen also, halberds, are positioned to see off those Chaos Knights, and they're just trying to buy time for my skirmishers to reload and fire into this blob, because that's the only way I can really deal with these Chaos Warriors armor piercing while they're pinned. Besides that, there's nothing I have on the battlefield that can see these guys off. Here you go, handgunners firing point blank range into these guys. A couple of ranks of these units, and then some free company as well. With the pistols, seeing those knights off. So pretty happy about how this is going. The last hold fast of the Empire. And more of my routing units, seeing that we still hold the dry land, are pulled back. In the center, elites are pulling away Chaos forces from this fight, drawing off pressure from the center. So now Boris can come and finally do his work. And the Jade Wizard even waiting in here, helping out some of these swordsman units to see these guys off. So this is pretty awesome. In the center, more action is underway. This is where my guys are going to commit under the shield of the old ones here. I really love the effect of this thing. So cool. Oh, and here comes the sorcerer that we had previously damaged. So we're taking a hell of a beating. We'll see how long he lasts. Probably not too long. I think he's going to try and retreat. The Chaos forces over here, chosen with halberds, are going to try and hold their own. Obviously, they're going to do pretty well in their big blob. Ooh, but they do get knocked about though. And here comes the swarm of dwarves. Net being cast on them, and oh, lots of damage actually being put on these guys. If they can hold the dwarves in place, they should be able to focus fire on them, although the doom stack of these runesmiths is going to be pretty devastating. They are tanky little beasts, and it's going to be very hard to see them off the battlefield. Meanwhile, the center, the Glade Lord has landed. It looks like he's going to be singled out by Mazamundi also. And he should be going off here. Yep. Calling it quits at that point, but looks like a spell is going to be cast against him. Oh, Earthblood actually. So he's going to be a little bit healed up by his own forces, but we still have these very tanky Stegodons still alive. They're charging after this Branch Wraith, which I believe is the one that was healing up the Glade Lord. Beastmen are coming back in pursuit, so this is a very wonky battle that we have occurring here. On my side, the Empire forces have held strong, although these Chaos Knights proving very devastating in the late game. Finally, with free reign on the open ground, are going to be charging through my guys. They just plunged through my weak units here. A lot of speed on them, and they got around my spears, start to knock over my guys. And now more Chaos forces have rallied back, sensing that the men of the Empire are isolated here. So all I have left are a couple spearman units and a couple crossbowmen here. So they're going to try and unload on the front line here with their shields bared. We'll see if it's enough. Halberds are going to take their turn. There we go, glorious defense. Should be trying to hold them, but they're going to get right on through to my crossbowmen. Not looking good for them. Meanwhile, on the back, Free Company Militia have been continuing to try and take these guys out with the Vengeance. Not too much damage, but it should be enough to finally get them to crumble. No, they're going to charge right on through. Oh my god, these guys insatiable here. And yeah, now having made contact with my line, not much I can do to hold out. Although the Jade Wizard does come in, oh, just as I said that, it looks like he was enough to stabilize these very, very weak troops. Although now the dogs come in, Centaurs come in, so no luck on my flank. But just as they get engaged, and my guys are thinking of routing, oh, they do rout, but the enemy routs as well, so they're not going to be killed off. So luckily, the Jade Wizard does hold strong. The last guy really holding this force together as the enemy suffers from extreme morale and army losses. And this is pretty cool. So now we finally seize the day, and in large part due to the stalwart defense of our allies, very, very elite forces, and even the tankiness of them. Look at these Dwarven warriors, such low health. There's a couple more volleys from hell cannons early on, and a little more bowmen, maybe a couple cavalry charges, and this could have crumbled. Obviously, the main investment, though, was in these big Stegodons, and those guys are still very much topped off thanks to this Bastildon. So the battle was never really in question on this side, although on my side you can see just how close it came to having my guys overrun. Everything is super low, and the only really healthy force is going to be Free Company Militia. She's gotten 46 kills, pretty surprising, especially firing into Chaos. Pretty impressed by them. And Greatsword still alive, 73 kills. So overall, this is the remains of my army, looking pretty good. And I believe we did lose. Oh no, it looks like Boris Todbringer still alive. He was playing a critical role that whole battle, charging into Chaos blobs and columns, holding them back, and allowing my crossbowmen to fire and the rest of my infantry to retreat. Well, he did finance this expedition, so you'd at least expect him to pay up with his blood as well, which he did this battle. So that was cool. So here we go. The last couple units left are going to be the dwarves here holding the hell cannons. I believe they're going to be unbreakable, which always means that they're going to be last ones on the battlefield, but not for long, because you have an entire army and several pissed off stegodons coming after them. And here's the shattered forces of the enemy. Looks like there's no coming back. Yeah, this is the only force left. So he goes. He's ditched the cannon crew. These dwarves deciding to meet their fate. And I can't wait for the dwarves here to be the Chaos dwarves to be a feature in the third game. Oh, it looks like Boris is actually coming in here getting some final kills. But yeah, I'm very eager to see those guys in the final game, game 3, see what units they bring to the roster, and see if they're really going to have a lot of the power that we would expect them to have. I have seen some mods which show the Chaos Dwarves, and they're very, very powerful. Lots of the, obviously, power of the Dwarves, but even more so, I believe, on the firepower aspect. A lot of armor-piercing stuff, blunderbuss type units, and then some very, very large cannons. They excel in that kind of forgery. And then, of course, the ability to field some fodder units as well, some cheaper tar pits, is going to be really, really powerful for them. So there you have it. That's the end of the battle. So I hope you guys enjoyed this one. I do like role-playing a bit with my armies, and in this case, it was kind of fun. Although the half of my force that sallied out and ran back spent most of their time running and dying, as you can see here. But that's every cinematic trailer you'd expect for a Warhammer game. Men of the Empire exploring the woods, running into the enemy, running away and dying, and then finally holding a last defense, and then a Deus Ex Machina event coming to save them from the forces of chaos at the last moment. So you saw a little movie here. But that's it. I hope you guys enjoyed. Let's go ahead and take a look at the stats. I'm curious to see how many kills I got. Probably not too many. Although the Free Company Militia do seem to have gotten the most kills right next to the Knights of the Blazing Sun, so that's pretty impressive. Oh, and of course great swords as well. So overall, did a lot of dying and not too much killing. That's evidenced by just how many men I brought to the battlefield. Over here, if you look at the other side, the dwarves really not bringing that much, but obviously getting a fair amount of kills on some of their elite units. The lizardmen here, I believe, did most of the killing. Even the Source Spears, very impressed to see that against the Gore Herds, getting lots of kills. And then the Stegodons, of course, getting lots of Chevs from their efforts. Temple Guard as well. And Mazamudi with 181. Super impressive. Meanwhile, you look at Chaos, and they did a lot of killing from my guys, vetting up even more so. Hell Cannons always, or at least I find always paying for themselves. I believe, yeah, Wood Elves are going to do pretty well. A lot of it being due to the archers. So most of the killing from all the enemy was soaked up by my guys, allowing our elites to hopefully sustain and finish the battle as you saw them do. And finally, the Beastmen here, I would say, underperformed. A lot of their advanced deployed Ungor herds were caught a little bit earlier in the battle, unsupported, and just slaughtered by our guys, which left them with, yeah, some pretty powerful Gorbals and Minotaurs, but these guys were easily tied down by some of the big monsters. So it was probably the weakest link on their side. I was the weakest link on our side, and in the end, it was a fairly balanced fight, I guess you could say. So that's it. Hope you guys enjoyed. Stay tuned for more. And yeah, let me know what types of other Total War scenarios you'd like to see, or if you have any other games you'd like to recommend to me. I'm definitely all ears to check them out. So that's it. See you next one. Peace out.